Welcome everyone to our first info session about STAC. STAC is Success Through Alternative Capital. My name is Kenesha Raymond. I'm the Director of Programs and Access to Capital here at Startup Tucson. And we also have Danny Nee from CIC. Danny, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Danny Nee. I'm the Executive Director for Community Investment Corporation.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Startup Tucson, if you guys don't know, is a nonprofit that works to transform the region's economy through entrepreneurship. So our goal is to help people build and scale their business, and we do that a couple different ways. Next slide, please. We are able to do that through mentoring and education, events and networking, resources and referrals. And then we also have a couple different programs here. So whether you're just starting a business and you're trying to figure out how to build that and get your lean canvas together, we can help you with that. Or if you're in the scaling stages, and then we help you with education to get to the point of funding, especially like programs like RBF and our BIPOC Loan Fund. Next slide, please. And Danny, I'm gonna kick it to you.
So we are Community Investment Corporation. Our tagline is "We know your worth." We think that the economy works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And so we're trying to make sure that everybody has full access to the benefits of the economy. We give members of our community who are shut out or left behind access to the knowledge and financing they need to pursue new opportunities. We work in three program areas. What we're really about is building assets. And so what we do that through home ownership, down payment services for first-time home buyers and lower income home buyers. We do that through entrepreneurship. Our focus is on capital access. So basically providing funding to people who can't get loans from banks. They're considered unbankable. And the last part is education. We have a family and school engagement program. That group works on helping under-resourced parents, those without the time or money, to be able to access information that helps helps them with K through 12 education. We are launching a school locator called My Schools Tucson. It's a local locator coming up here in just a few weeks. So we hope you'll look out for that as well. So what the heck is RBF? That's what you guys are here today. RBF is, people talk about it like it's, like lending, and you can think of it that way, but in fact, it's a little bit different than lending. Basically, it's a type of capital raising in which investors are going to receive a certain percentage of companies' future gross revenues in exchange for providing capital now. That's a mouthful. What it basically means is if you need $10,000 right now for your business, say, we are the investor. We would invest that money in your company for a promise of that money back plus what's called a multiplier. And so in our case, that multiplier is going to be, it's 1.28. So if you borrow $10,000, you'll wind up paying back $12,800. Payments for that are based on your revenues. And so they go up, and your payments can go up and down depending on how your business is doing. And so we'll talk about some of the characteristics why this can be the right fit. This is not the right fit for every company, but maybe the right fit for your business. In case you're wondering, it's also, you may hear, it's also referred to as royalty-based financing. And again, it's just the idea of providing capital that you need right now for a promise of future revenues that you'll be making. Next slide. So how it works, and really we'll just talk about a few of the characteristics. One part about our process is that it is quick access to capital. It is not sort of a typical loan process, and CIC is a lender. We do some more I think you would call it traditional type lending, looking at debt service coverage ratios, looking at, all the aspects of your business, your profit and loss, and your balance sheet, and lots of documentation that you have to submit. And it takes a while to go through that. This is quick access to capital. We use a platform called NED. That platform connects right to your bank. And what it is there's no collateral that's required. There's no credit checks. There's no personal guarantee, things that are very typical of other types of financing. There's also no ownership dilution. If you know what that is, it's something where you're trying to get an equity investment and then somebody owns a part of your company. They'll give you money for part ownership. It's none of those things. Instead, it's based upon your cash flow. And it really looks at your historic cash flow. So how much have you been having coming in? We look for a 2-year period. So again, it's not something that startups, true startups can be a part of. But for a business that has existed for a little bit, has some cash flow, we can actually look at that cash flow and determine the amount that you would be able to borrow for the future payments very, very quickly. The computer basically does most of it for us. So it's very quick. It's very low documentation. Again, it's not unlike if you've ever used, there are budgeting sort of softwares that connect to your bank or connect to your credit card, and they download all the transactions and they help you categorize them. This is similar. It goes to your business bank account, it downloads so that we know how much money is going in terms of revenue and how much expenses are going out. And then we can determine your eligibility very, very quickly. Again, the amount that you pay back is going to be a set multiple of what you borrow. So no matter how long it takes you to pay it back, you're going to pay the same amount. Again, it is 1.28 times the amount that you have borrowed. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that means. This is part of some of the confusing part of RBF and how some of the players who are actually in the marketplace right now, they play a little bit fast and loose with things. They try to be a little bit tricky on purpose. Next slide. So here's an example. We went over it a little bit, but just so that you would understand, let's say you need $10,000 for inventory or marketing. And so you want to use RBF to structure the transaction. Those that fund you, in this case, we're using 10% because it's really easy. I like easy math. So in this case, they're saying it would be a 10% fee. So the breakdown is the amount of revenues from sales that you will owe the investor is $11,000. It's the money you borrowed plus 10%. In this case, the funder, CIC, is purchasing this amount of future revenues by giving you $10,000 right now. So in that way, it really does sound like a loan. It's not just because the instrument that's used, sort of legal instrument that's used, is different than a loan. But in that way, you can see how it might feel like a loan. Next. So in this case, again, the fixed fee is going to be $1,000 extra that you're winding up paying to the person that funded, the group that funded you, that's CIC. This is basically, it's the discount for the funder. It's basically the money you're paying to borrow their money. So you'll receive $11,000, which is called the purchase price, and you would receive $10,000, which is the purchase price, and you'll repay $11,000 over time, and the total purchased amount of revenue. So sorry, there's an important mistake right there. It should say you received $10,000, but you will pay back $11,000. And then what it is from that point, that's how much money you're borrowing. What is then determined is the revenue share. So how much of your revenues are you basically going to be paying back on a monthly basis? In this case, in this example, it's saying you agree to pay 6% of your gross revenue. You can choose it for STAC, either to come out weekly or to come out monthly. Again, this is done by being the connection of our technology to your bank account. So we'll know how much money went into the account every month, and then we'll automatically pull that amount. This is just an example showing you that, in week 1, if you had $3,000 of revenue, then, and you were paying on a weekly basis, 6% of that revenue would be $180. $180 would come out of your account. In week 2, you had a better week. You made $5,500. So in that week, you would have a higher payment because you made more revenue. The idea is that when your business is doing better, you hopefully have more cash and can afford more. And then when your business isn't doing as well, your payments are actually lower. And we can talk about why that can be useful. In this example, week 3, $4,200, you would pay $252. Again, it's 6% of that. And then in week 4, you made nothing for whatever reason. And so it means that your payment would be nothing. And so what this type of financing does in some respects is it hedges against downsides in your business. In Tucson, there's a lot of seasonal fluctuation for a lot of businesses that comes in the summer. If you're a customer-facing business, retail, there don't tend to be as many people around. People don't want to go out in the heat as much. And so you see most businesses in Tucson see a bit of a downturn during the summer. With a regular term loan, like a loan that we often do, where payments are exactly the same every month, it doesn't adjust for that. And so that can be hard in a month or a week where you had very little revenue to still have to make a loan payment that's the same one that's based upon your overall what we're doing 2 years prior. That's how most loans are done. And if you're not hitting those marks, then it can be a real strain on the business. And so again, I think businesses that have some seasonality, they are potentially really good businesses for this type of financing. When you know that you're going to have downturns, and then you have other times that you have things really going well. Everybody generally knows, again, in sort of retail, Christmas is a really big time. And so you may see lots of your revenues during that time. Your payments would be higher during that time. But one thing that we're going to talk about is that different from the revenue-based finance that's out in the marketplace through other providers, we put a cap on the monthly payment, that it can be no higher than a certain amount. So that even if you have a really good month, we're not going to take the revenue share all the way up to its maximum. We're actually going to cap it because we want you to be able to keep more of that money to help your business continue to grow. So the real focus is on what's good for the business and not so much what's good and profitable, which is where most RBF providers come. They want to do what's profitable for them. We're a nonprofit. We're not focused on profitability. We are focused on offsetting some of the costs that it takes to run this program, certainly, but we're not looking at profit beyond that, which a lot of the other RBF providers do. Next slide. So here's basically how it's going to work for you. The first thing you do, and we'll get you the information to how to do it, you would complete an application. You would then, after you complete that application, it's online, you would then need to connect your bank account to NED to see if you are approved. We understand there can be some feelings about like, wait, you're going to connect to your bank account. This is something that is done much more often these days with auto pay and these types of things. We use the most secure platform to be able to do this. Obviously, again, we're a nonprofit. We're not doing anything nefarious. We have an agreement that will show you that there are real limitations to what it is that we can do with any of that bank information. It is really only here to be able to do very quick, sort of frictionless underwriting to come to a decision. And then it's the means by which we wind up knowing what the payment will be in a week or a month, depending on what it is that you select. So after that, it's pretty quick. It's within a couple of days that you basically, after you've connected your bank to whether or not you can are approved. There's a little bit of onboarding that goes on after that. Then what we do is you're going to generate sales, and a set percentage of those revenues are going to be taken out of your business account weekly or monthly, again, how you set it. If you don't have a business bank account, it's something, this may be a little more difficult to do. When we do our typical loans, even our micro loans, we require businesses to set up a business bank account. It is important to segregate the money that's flowing from your business away from your personal expenses. And so if you don't have that, this is something that's going to be really important for you to do. It will be difficult, quite honestly, to qualify for this type of loan if you don't already have a business bank account set up and haven't been using it. There would be a lot more sort of manual stuff that we would have to do to be able to consider. So I just want to throw out that caveat. Again, the percentage is set at the beginning. Generally, the percentage that we have is 7.5%. That's the baseline percentage of your revenues. In a lot of other cases, they are charging 12 to 15% of revenues. So it's a lot bigger amount that they're trying to get you pay back, again, from other RBF providers, which we're going to get into in a second. So what it means is that in tough months, you are going to have lower payments, and in better months, you're going to have higher payments. But again, one of the real differences in what we are doing is we are capping those payments. So that they won't be, if suddenly you tripled your revenue, your payments won't triple. Because we have it set so it can't be more than 1.7 of the amount that we originally calculated, that we forecasted with you. And so again, that cap, that does not exist in other RBF products that are out there. Next, please. Okay, so what do we do different? We just talked about it. We cap your monthly payment. The other things that we have payments that are a lower percentage of your revenues. What is one thing that's really confusing, and I'm sorry to be like math geeky about this, but when you're trying to figure out a loan, and the most important part of a loan generally is the interest rate, how much interest you are paying over time. Because this has a set payment and not a set interest rate, it works a little bit different. What it means is you're going to pay back, again, in our case, it's 1.28. So you're going to pay back $12,800 and over time, depending on how your business runs. The shorter the time period, in some ways, the better that your business does, the quicker that you will pay back that amount. And what that means is that the effective interest rate is going to be higher. I don't have time to go into all of that, but I promise you that is how it works. If you're going to pay a set amount of, in this case, it's not called interest, but if you said, hey, I'm going to pay back $2,800 in interest, the longer you pay it back over, the lower the interest rate. And what mostly is happening in the RBF revenue-based finance that exists is they're trying to get you to pay back the money as quickly as possible. And they use things like, hey, you'll pay back 1.1 times in some cases. There are ones that are much higher, 1.5, there's 2, 2.3, oftentimes depending on how much money you want. But the incentive for the lender is to have you pay back as quickly as possible, because then that means they earn a higher interest rate on that money. In most cases, the RBF that exists is trying to get you to pay back from anywhere from 6 months to a year. The other thing that we don't have that the others have is that they have milestone payments. Well, what's a milestone payment? Well, it sort of defeats the purpose of revenue-based finance. And this is something that we found is kind of hidden. It's not always talked about. And what it is they say, well, your payments are based on your revenue, but there's a minimum amount that you have to pay us for a 3-month period or for half of a year. So in that case, if you're having a tough time in your business or there's seasonality, they will require you to make this balloon payment to catch up. And that, again, it sort of defeats the purpose of what we think is the value of revenue-based finance, which is to have payments that are according to how your business is doing. You're basically making a payment based on your performance. When you're doing a little bit worse in your business, and it may not be for any reason outside of, say, seasonality, then your payments are lower because you have less money coming in. And then when you're doing better, your payments are a little bit higher because you're doing better. And the idea is that you can afford more at those times. And so these milestone payments that some of these RBF entities have are really, they're really harmful, quite honestly. And they are not in the best interest of a business owner. And so as you might be looking at RBF, whether with us or somebody else, we encourage you to ask about this and to look into the idea, are there milestone payments? They may call them something different, but we've seen them most often referred to as milestone payments. Our effective interest rates are meant to be anywhere between 8% and 20%, depending on how your business does. So if your business crushes it and really you wind up paying back in a shorter period of time, your interest, the effective interest rate, could be as high as 20%, which is a little bit on the high side. Nonetheless, it is still lower than almost every RBF that's out there. Even at that, they again hide a little bit. They're not transparent about this effective interest rate. They won't compare it for you. They don't want you to know because they don't want you to think about it. We are transparent. What we are doing is looking to have lower payments, lower weekly or monthly payments, so that the term extends out, your payment period extends out, which then lowers your effective interest rate. That is also what we do differently than the other RBF that's out there. Next, please. Okay, so here are examples, just in case you're wondering. Square, PayPal, Stripe. If any of you use any of those for your business, you may have been offered RBF. And you may wonder why you've been offered RBF. Well, one of the things, the devil is in the details, as I would say, is that you may not even know why you qualify. It's because they are running algorithms based on the payments that they see. And so they know when you are plumb for the picking, and that's who they are going to look at. It's not unlike when you get a mortgage. There's public information on mortgages, and suddenly in your mail you get all these offers for refinancing. Not because it's a better deal for you, but because they know that you now have a mortgage to refinance and they want your business. So this is comparable. These companies have your information and they will offer you revenue-based finance, and you won't necessarily know why, but I guarantee it's because they think they can make good money off of you. That's why they do it. So there's a lack of transparency from these. We would like to push more transparency in this marketplace. People should be more upfront about exactly what they're doing. Again, it's very difficult to compare interest rate of an RBF, like an effective interest rate, because that's not how an RBF is set up. An RBF is set up that you're paying a sum, the 0.28 extra, and it just depends on how long it takes you to pay it off. So it can be hard to compare, but most of us think in terms of interest rates. Most of us understand, basically what a mortgage, an acceptable interest rate in a mortgage is. We hear about it all the time. Interest rates are going up right now, those types of things. We understand it in terms of car loans, what our interest rate was on a car loan, oftentimes 6% or, 7%, whatever it is. If you have worse credit, it's much higher, but they are not making it easy for you to compare apples to apples, and they're doing it on purpose. We will help you understand that. Also, again, there are milestone payments that many of these require, and they also have no cap on monthly payments. So you could do really good, and you're just going to be paying more and more money to the company to repay it. And again, what this does for them is if you do really well, and you may be able to afford it, quite honestly, but if you're doing really well, they're going to be taking a higher percentage. So it shortens your time period that you're paying back. And the result is that it's high cost or high interest capital, which is, again, as a nonprofit who even has a 0% loan fund for BIPOC entrepreneurs, we are not in the business of originating high interest loans. That's just not what we're up to. Next, please. All right, Kanisha, you're on.
Okay, Danny told you all about what RBF is and how STAC works, and I'm going to give you kind of the behind the scenes of what you're going to be filling out when you're going through the application process. So the first screen that you're going to go to is make sure you go to cictucson.org, and that's going to take you to the RBF page, and you can it's under what we do, and it's STAC, Success Through Capital. So you're going to go there and fill out your interest form, and you'll get a link to fill out your application. So the first page you'll get is your basic contact information, who you are, your first name, last name, email, all the basics. Then you'll get an email with a code. This helps to keep all your information private. Once you receive the code, make sure you put that in, and then you click next, and that will put you in the portal. Okay, so once you get to the next page, they want to know more about your business. So tell them the name of your business, how many employees. If it's just you, just put just you, the category that you fall in, and which county your business is located in. That's very important, and that's why it's required. So please make sure you fill that out. And then it will take you to the next page. And at this point, this is where we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of what you need and what your annual business revenue is. So how much funding do you need? What's your annual business revenue? What percentage of your revenue would you like to repay back each month? Would it be monthly or weekly? How frequent do you want to do that? So make sure that you're looking at your numbers and make it make sense for your business. So after you finish completing this, we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. This is where it's going to ask you for the things that I hope you have, but if you don't, we are here to help. So it's going to ask you to upload your business plan. If you do not have a business plan or a lean canvas, I need you to stop now, come back, reach out to us to Startup Tucson, and we'll help you through that process. And then it's going to ask you to upload your financials. So if you guys have profit and loss statements, and if you don't, CIC does have a class for that. Make sure that you stop and you save your page, and then you can come back and upload that at another time. Next slide, please. And then finally, you need to connect your business bank account. As Danny said, you need a business bank account to go ahead and connect. Next slide, and we will walk you through how that works. So Ned works with Plaid. You're going to connect your bank account from Ned, and then they're going to connect you to this screen, which is Plaid. So then you're going to press continue. You're going to select your bank account, whichever one that is. You're going to enter your credentials, however your credentials look on your side. it should look like this on the Plaid screen. And then you're going to connect the account. So once you get to the portion where you connect the account, you press continue. It takes a few minutes, and then you should get a refresh screen that says successfully connected. So at this point, your application is successfully sent to CIC. And it takes about 2 to 4 business days for you to hear back from their side. But knowing that it is successfully submitted, what happens next? You go grab a drink, you grab some coffee, some tea, you chill, and you wait to hear back from the wonderful people at CIC. Next slide, please. So after your application is submitted, it will take you back to the dashboard. This is what you will see. It will tell you that it's been submitted, your loan amount, when the date of the application, and then the last updated date. At this point, you're just waiting to get your finalized email. You should get an email back from Ned that says, hey, we have received your application and someone will be getting back to you soon. Next slide. At this point, once everything is submitted and you've heard back, this is what you'll see. So here you're able to review your application. You're able to chat with the CIC staff right there in the chat. Now there's no after hours chatting. So if you leave a message, somebody will get back to you and you will get an email that says someone got back to you. So you don't have to sit up and wait for that. And then if you want to withdraw your application for some odd reason, you just go to the drop down on the right-hand side and you're going to press withdraw. Do we have any questions about the application process or RBF at this time?
There was a question that came in. It came directly to me, but it's a good question. And it was, is this a fit for starting out businesses? Businesses just starting out. And the reality is it may not be. You need some track record. Understanding just how this is working. It's really based on revenues and cash flow. So if you don't have any revenues or don't have a history where we can't see sort of, hey, there's consistent money coming in, it's kind of impossible to set the terms. And so it may not be a good fit. So I'm sorry for that. I did see another one so is there a set payback window? There is not a set payback window. The way that we look at it is that basically our expectation and what we do when we look at the amount of revenue, the percentage of the revenue that we would be looking for a payment, we're looking at the amount that you're borrowing, versus how much revenue that you're actually generating, those types of things. It is set anywhere from 1 to 5 years. The ideal is about 3 years for us. And again, if you compare that to what the other RBF providers are trying to get you to pay back within 6 months or a year by extending out the payment period, that again lowers your effective interest rate. But again, it has to do with how your business does. Our hope, what we look for is we look for stable, a stable cash flow so that we can depend on it, even with a little bit of growth to it, a profitable business to be able to do that. And that way we can kind of, our forecast is like, hey, somewhere in the 3-year range, but then the real world happens and we'll see how that goes. Our hope is that you do better, but that is sort of the, the bet that we're making is we're trying to get people right around 3 years. If your business does well, it's going to be shorter. If your business doesn't do as well as you thought or doesn't do as well as when you applied, then it will probably be a little bit longer. But again, the ideal window we're looking at is about 3 years, but there is no set, hey, you have to pay this back.
We have another one, Danny. Does the process of paying back the money start immediately?
It does start immediately, but again, it's based on your revenues. So the idea with, and I can say this to businesses who are looking for any type of financing or any type of loan, really what people want to see, a lender wants to see, is that what you are what you're getting a loan for is going to help your business be more profitable and to grow. So this is actually a little bit better than a term loan, where you may borrow something, borrow amount, have a set payment, and that money hasn't even had time to help you make money. And what I mean is, you get money to buy new equipment. Well, you have to order that equipment, it has to come in, you have to get it into service. It may be a while before that whatever you bought is actually helping your business. In this case, it's basically payments are set up so that you can afford them however you're doing right now, with the idea that hopefully then as you're doing better, you can afford a little bit more.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and then we're going to open it up for full Q&A. So the timeline, apply for access to the portal, and then you're going to complete the application. CIC reviews it. CIC will reach out and follow up. Your application will be reviewed, and you'll meet with a CIC staff person. You'll sign your loan documents, and you'll connect with us at Startup Tucson, where we'll help you on the back end of that. So if you need help in the beginning, feel free to reach out, or CIC will connect, but we'll help you with the education after you receive the loan to help you grow. And then your loan is completely funded. As we kind of go through the process of your going through the application, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out as well. And now we're going to open it up for full Q&A, because we have a lot of questions in the chat. So you want to take them, Danny?
Well, one question was, what happens if your company goes out of business? So if your company goes out of business, nothing happens. It's super unfortunate for everyone involved, including us. It's one of the reasons why we are looking at 2 years history to basically kind of look at, what does your cash flow look like? Are you profitable? Those types of things, because there is no collateral or security. There are no credit checks on this. I hope that people, if you've ever seen me talk on other occasions about other things, you'll know that this is something that we need to work on. Most lending is done, and it's underwritten based on assets that you can pledge. If I don't repay, you get my house, my car, my business assets, whatever it is. Those are secured loans. And the problem with secured loans is that they favor people who already have existing wealth, who already have assets. And they make it very hard on earlier stage businesses or individuals that don't have their own personal wealth that they can pledge. So there is not as much capital available. In our country, there is more commercial capital, there's more commercial debt, loans to businesses, than the actual value of the businesses. So anybody just deal with that for a second, and we can blame, hey, America, we're credit crazy and addicted to credit. And that isn't the case in commercial debt. The reality is, loans and commercial debt are essential for businesses to grow. It doesn't mean every business should have them or go out and get that right now, but to ignore that fact is problematic, because it leaves a lot of people starting out behind. It makes it much tougher for a business. Again, we're not going to be able to solve all the problems. We can't just give out credit to anybody who comes and asks. There are factors that we're using to what's called underwrite. We're looking at the risk of these types of things. But it is really important to understand there is no collateral or credit check, and that's very different from most of the types of financing that you are going to find out there in the marketplace.
Okay, we had another question. How long do you have to be in business? We're looking at 2 years, 2 years or more revenue, correct?
It's correct. So here's, not that we want people to be submitting when they don't have sort of the basics. There can be some exceptions. 18 months would be the minimum, but all of this would basically slow down and is no guarantee. We have a partner, Common Future. They're a national nonprofit. They gave $250,000, and we set parameters in place of who we would loan to. We can ask for exceptions, but they're much more labor intensive, harder for us to do, and they're not guaranteed. So really, 2 years, if you had 18 months and you were smoking hot, you're doing amazing in 18 months, that might be the way to do it. Also, thank goodness that I have staff that's correcting me here. Somebody asked about delay. You can actually set a 30, 60, or 90-day delay. Look at how great we are. I didn't even know it, but you can set a 30, 60, or 90-day delay for your first payment. So my apologies for not knowing that. Part of this is it's a brand new product, and we are continuing even adjusting things as we got ready to launch. So that's good to know. Somebody on our staff already answered that question. So my apologies for the misinformation I gave before.
Okay, you answered the how is STAC funded. Common Future gave 250, but CIC also put 250 behind it.
That's right. And so what we're doing, it's a pilot program. Common Future put in $250,000, and we have a revenue. Just so you know, we believe in what we're doing. We actually have a revenue-based agreement with them. So as money comes back in from this program, then we pay them back that investment. And what we're doing is we're doing some things that are different than being done in the marketplace. So they've provided that money. It's risk-free to us. If they're, unfortunately, if some things didn't go right, we don't have to repay, just the same way in a revenue-based agreement with us. If you were to go out of business, for instance, there's nothing to be done on the other side of that. We certainly hope that's not the case. And again, that's why we want to see a track record of your business doing well. Other questions?
I think one of the things that we didn't cover, if you do not feel that you do not qualify, please, one, fill out the interest form, but also fill out the interest form on CIC's website, because they have other opportunities outside of the revenue-based funding.
Yeah. Somebody asked, is there a maximum loan amount? It is $50,000 is the maximum loan amount. And what we want to say is, so Startup Tucson, if you haven't visited Startup Tucson to talk to them, they are the best way to get prepped for any kind of financing. We always joke, it's not a joke though, they're our organizational BFFs. We work together all the time. And so they are teaching the things that will let you know, hey, this might be hard for you to get capital, knowing what CIC does. And we can put you in touch with them, and they can talk you through what some of the issues may be in looking at your finances. One thing to always know about lending too is that lending and money that you borrow really can't be used for emergency situations, not this type of institutional lending. Your business has to be stable and doing all right. Otherwise, quite honestly, there are not resources to necessarily invest in what are currently failing businesses. What is really needed is to turn around and start showing kind of a reversal of trends. And going to Startup Tucson, YWCA is another provider, Arizona Forge. These are groups that can really help you work on your business. And that's an important part of this is knowing also when financing is needed, when it might be a good fit, and then finding the right fit. We will never force you. We're never going to try to get you into financing that we don't think is good for your business. We would rather you not get it or go somewhere else. Qualify for a bank loan, we would probably tell you to go get a bank loan. So just know that we're here to make sure that something is a fit for you.
Okay, 2 more questions. We'll be notified if our application has been denied.
You will, and in that notification, it will probably come via email. Sarah Feld can correct me if I'm wrong, and it's not meant to be impersonal, but what it is it will also have a bunch of resources. That idea of, hey, there are maybe you should check out Startup Tucson, YWCA, places that you can go. We're also happy to talk to you about what part of, what was the reason that you were denied. Again, there are certain parameters. We can't deal with businesses. I don't think I said it right now. Anybody over $500,000 of annual revenues. If you ask why, the reason is that we have a limited pool of money, at least right now. And what we're trying to do is make sure that businesses that don't otherwise have access to capital, don't have other pathways to access to funding, are able to get it. And we believe that generally businesses that are bigger, have more revenues, they have more pathways to do that. So right now, at least for the pilot program, the limit that we have is $500,000 in annual revenue. If you're bigger than that, then we can talk to you, but maybe talk to you about some other possible loans you can get. There are a number of lenders in this community that we're very, very close to. People like Growth Partners Arizona, who has a number of different types of funding, crowd-funded, Kiva. They also do just regular business loans. They're a community development finance institution, a CDFI. And so they also have some flexible capital to be able to be used. Other questions?
Our last question, is there allocation requirements for the money loaned, and do we have to spend it on specific things, or is available for multiple uses for the business?
It's available for multiple uses of the business. We will likely ask you what it is being used for. I mean, at some point we can sit down and talk about the way debt should be utilized. But in general, this is actually really flexible capital. The idea is we still sort of want to get a sense of what it is you're going to use it for, how it's going to make your business better. Sometimes people, here's something that happens in our world. People will come and say, hey, I'd like to get a loan. And we say, well, how much do you want? And they say, well, how much can you give me? And it's not that that's not, it's not that that isn't a good answer. It's just that I don't think you're asking yourself the right questions, which are, well, what do I need to make my business better? And it's not just extra money that's sitting around that you're paying interest on. That may not be a real good use of the money. It's really like, what are the concrete things you're planning for? Buying inventory to get ready for a really busy time, for instance. Buying a new machine or new equipment or new truck so that you can do more of your business. Those are the types of things, ideally, that you want to be doing with the money. But we will ask about it, but it is more flexible in terms of sometimes just having more working capital. This is probably the most flexible money that you'll find, at least certainly in CIC's own portfolio of lending.
Okay, can I have the next slide as we wrap up? Danny, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I've been, man, I'm glad I came prepped for this. There's a lot of good questions out there. And honestly, thank you so much for your questions. This is new. It's something that you really should get comfortable with. If you're still, after this, not totally understanding, again, one webinar probably does not make you an expert on revenue-based finance. We're happy to make sure to answer all your questions. We want you to know the difference of what RBF is, the difference between it and typical loans, because most of us think in terms of typical loans. Patty, you have your hand raised?
Yes.
I know you mentioned this about possibly extending the term. Is it something that we should address? So if it's a 3-year term, is it once we get to the 3rd year that we say we need 2 more, or?
Yeah, so it's not actually like that. The term is something that we're trying to forecast. There is no set term. It isn't a 3-year loan. It is, you owe us again. If we go to the example, I borrow $10,000, I have to pay back $12,800. I'm doing so by paying monthly payments of 7.5% of our revenue. This is when a spreadsheet is amazing, and I get super nerdy and really love it. But the point being, however long that takes you, that's the term of your loan. We don't know because we can't predict exactly how much revenue you're going to have. And so it's whenever you pay off is when you pay off. The way that we forecast it at the beginning, so you're taking past performance and then you're trying to say, okay, we think it's going to be sort of like it was in the past. We are trying to get it so it's about somewhere in a 3-year term, somewhere right around there, anywhere 2 years to 3 years. But depending on your business, if your business is doing better than that, very profitable, those things, even when you come to us, your term will wind up being, our forecast will be shorter than that. And so you just have to, again, decide whether that's worth it for you. But we can tell you what the projected term is, and you'll actually see that in net. It will show you, hey, with this amount, this percentage of our revenue based on our projections, here's how many payment periods. So you can actually futz around a little bit to see. There are other reasons that you may want to pay something off more quickly. Generally speaking, I'm telling you it's not a good idea, just because it increases your interest rate. But there can be issues with getting other financing if you have this loan. And so other lenders, other debt often want you to pay off your existing debt. So in that case, you can pay off. There's no quote unquote prepayment penalty. You just have to pay that amount that was agreed to. And so, but just, understand there may be reasons that you actually want to pay it off quicker. And it usually has to do with then being able to have access to other financing because you want to do something. Maybe you need a bigger loan for something bigger than you're doing, and $50,000 that you borrowed wasn't enough at the time. So there can be reasons. In general, though, it's better not to try to pay it off more quickly because, again, your effective interest rate is higher. This is something that no other RBF is going to tell you because it works against their interest. We will tell you because that is not what we're here for. We're here to give you fair access to capital.
Well, with that, thank you all so much for joining us. For more information, please check out cictucson.org. If you want to reach out to any of us, you can reach out to lending@cictucson.org or my name, Kenesha, at startuptucson.com. If you have any other questions, feel free to either email or reach out by phone. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.